So, we begin.
Imagine you own one of the most legendary science fiction franchises in history. A franchise that has inspired scientists, astronauts, and millions of fans around the world. And then you decide to make a new series about students in a space academy. That series is Starfleet Academy.
If you told me 24 hours ago I'd be saying those words, well, the truth is, I'm surprised.
But the moment the first trailers and early reactions appeared online, the internet exploded. Some fans say it's a fresh new start for Star Trek. Others claim it's the biggest mistake the franchise has made in years. So the question is simple: is Starfleet Academy actually good? Or is it a disaster? For those unfamiliar with the concept, the show follows a group of young cadets studying at Starfleet Academy. In the universe of Star Trek, this is the institution that trains future.
I know many of you have never been to Earth. This will be a beginning. One of many. There, whatever challenges came before today led you to this moment.
In other words, this is the place where the next generation of Starfleet officers is created. Unlike traditional Star Trek shows that follow the crew of a starship exploring the galaxy, Starfleet Academy spends most of its time on campus. We see classroom strength simulations and the personal relationships between cadets. And that's where the biggest difference appears. Because this series sometimes feels less like a traditional Star Trek adventure, and more like a coming-of-age drama set in space. The first thing that needs to be said is this: the production quality is impressive. The visual effects look great, the Academy itself feels massive and futuristic, and the world design is clearly high budget. The campus of Starfleet Academy feels like a university from the 25th century.
Caleb. What's that one? Right there. Right there. One day, when we have our own ship.
The cast is also solid, mixing younger actors with more experienced performers playing mentors and officers. However, very quickly it becomes clear that the tone of the series is different from what many longtime fans expected. Instead of focusing primarily on philosophical dilemmas, deep space exploration, or scientific mysteries, the show spends a lot of time exploring the personal lives of the cadets, friendships, rivalries, romance. For some viewers, this approach makes the show more relatable. For others, it feels like something very different from the Star Trek they grew up with.
Is anybody listening?
Man, why does everything have to be a full-on lesson in this place?
Because it's a school, Caleb.
The online reaction to the show has been extremely divided. One of the biggest criticisms is the tone of the series. Many longtime fans believe Star Trek has always been more than simple entertainment. It was known for exploring big ideas about humanity, science, and the future. Shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation and Star Trek: Deep Space Nine often dealt with serious topics such as diplomacy, ethical conflict, and moral responsibility.
Friend, face danger alone.
In comparison, Starfleet Academy often focuses more on character drama and personal conflicts. Another criticism is the writing of the characters. Some viewers argue that several cadets feel a bit familiar or predictable. For example, the rebellious but brilliant Ploth idealistic scientist, overly ambitious rival. These types of characters can work well in a story. But compared to the depth of characters from earlier Star Trek shows, some fans feel they lack complexity. A third criticism involves pacing. Certain episodes try to balance multiple storylines at once: Academy politics, training missions, personal drama, and sometimes the result feels slightly uneven.
Morning. I'm Captain Nala Ake, Chancellor of Starfleet Academy.
However, the story isn't entirely negative. There are also plenty of viewers who genuinely enjoy the series. First, the Academy setting offers a completely new perspective on the Star Trek universe. Instead of following experienced officers who already understand Starfleet ideals, we see young cadets who are still learning what those ideals mean. That creates a different type of story. Second, the show clearly tries to attract a younger audience.
My stars. Can it be? My two best gals? Anisha. Well, you're alive!
Modern viewers often connect more strongly with character-driven stories and relationships. From that perspective, the Academy setting actually makes a lot of sense. Third, the core elements of Star Trek are still present. The show still includes exploration and culture-oriented challenges and questions about the future of humanity. They're simply viewed through the lens of students who are still discovering their place in the universe.
One.
Come on, who you kidding? It was always gonna be me in this chair.
In my opinion, the real issue with Starfleet Academy isn't that it tries something new. The real issue is balance. The series sometimes feels like it's trying to be 3 different shows at once. A classic Star Trek adventure, a coming-of-age drama, and a modern streaming-era character series, and occasionally it struggles to combine all 3 successfully. When the show focuses on science fiction ideas and the philosophy of Starfleet, it can be genuinely interesting. But when it leans too heavily into typical television drama tropes, it risks losing the unique spirit that made Star Trek special in the first place.
Like Lazarus, but shorter, and a girl. Well, I admit, I'm surprised. But not really. I mean, what does surprise me is just saying you're here with her.
So we return to the original question: is Starfleet Academy good, or is it a disaster? The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. It's not the best Star Trek series ever made, but it's also far from the worst. Instead, it feels like an experiment and attempt to introduce the Star Trek universe to a new generation of viewers. For some fans, that experiment works. For others, it feels like a step away from what made Star Trek great. But one thing is certain: Starfleet Academy has already become one of the most debated Star Trek shows in recent years. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think this series is a good new direction for Star Trek, or should the franchise return to its classic roots? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.